So I would like to introduce my very first guest, my first interview guest here on my podcast, Analytic Philosophy, and her name is Norma Jean Gradsky. Norma Jean Gradsky, for those not familiar with her, is a very talented voiceover artist, and she's also an actress, and I believe she also teaches acting, and she has a long list of credentials. But I don't. We're not going to discuss her credentials at any length today because her list is so long. So Norma, is there anything that I left out that you would like to infill, or anything you'd like to add, or anything at all, really?
No, it was a very nice introduction, and can you hear me okay?
I can hear you loud and clear. Yes, just unbelievably well. Yes.
Oh, very good. It was a nice introduction, and I appreciate it. Um, I'm happy to be here. The reason being, having had exposure to your work through narrating your work for you, um, I've come up with a lot of questions. My my educational background, my discipline's not philosophy, but I'm really interested in what I've been reading and narrating.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
Well, I'm flattered, perhaps.
Well, you should be. You should be. I'm impressed. I'm
Really? Well,
impressed.
thank you very much. I mean, now, when you say you're interested, are you interested from a kind of criminological or psychiatric standpoint, or from a slightly more positive standpoint? That was
Well, a positive
oh, okay.
standpoint as a lay person.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
I have an educational background, but as I said, it wasn't my discipline, and just as a lay person, and I like what I believe that your mission is to, or one of your missions is to kind of bring philosophical thought to the everyman, and so that's me, and I'm enjoying it.
Well, thank you very much. Now, just for our listeners, so Miss Gradsky has narrated several of my books, actually. And they are Analytic Truth versus Formal Truth, and a priori knowledge, non-empirical knowledge, and the recent and most substantial, and probably the most interesting, I think, to viewers is listeners, is Kant's Ethics.
Hmm.
And of these four, which would you like to talk about, or which do you have the most questions about?
Well, the Kant's ethics
Okay.
brought up just well, although I really enjoyed it and learning more about Kant and
Hmm.
his viewpoint, it kind of stuck a spur in my behind, uh,
Okay. Good.
and
Good.
I
Good.
think
Let it
I.
out. Let it out. Let out the anger. Okay. Good.
Okay.
Good. Let's.
Well, and it had to do with animals, and it was just kind of a fleeting reference to it. It wasn't a discussion. Evidently, Kant has whole discussions on his philosophy about the moral obligations we have to animals, etc. But there was one word in it that really got me. Something about, and that is why we as humans are better than animals because of our rational thought. And that just stuck me. It struck me as wrong.
Okay.
So
All
I
right.
wanted to ask you more about it.
Well, yes. Okay. Now, first of all, now that is more or less Kant's view, but it's also my view, and I think in that context, you can pretty much attribute that view to me, right? So we don't have to play this shell game where I am like, oh, that's not me, that's Kant, or, oh, that's not Kant, that's me. You can go ahead and and attribute that viewpoint to me. I'm going to say it right now. I think that although many human beings are deeply despicable, uh, probably most actually, nonetheless, actually, I think the very fact that human beings are capable, are worthy of being despicable, means that they actually have a certain moral value. Like, you couldn't like have hatred for like a rabbit, right? Because it's not good enough to be hated, as it were. So no, I do think that many human beings are deeply suboptimal in many ways, but I do think that we have more value than animals. This is what I believe, um, and um, and I also think that it is because of our rationality that we have more value than animals. So those are my views, and they are also Kant's views. But yes, those are my views, and you disagree.
Well, Yes, I disagree. I think that taking that stance is just kind of an excuse to objectify animals so we can use them, you know, without any moral consideration. And I did read a little bit of Kant's view on that, and it did seem despicable to me.
Please
Uh,
tell me. Please tell me. I think you might know about Kant's views on this more than I do. I mean, I know about Kant's views on ethics, but I haven't read too much about his views specifically about animals.
well, I just read, just kind of a cheat sheet from the Stanford Encyclopedia
Right.
of Philosophy. So, as I said, I'm a layperson,
Oh, that's fine.
and the author of that particular piece um, they had a few quotes from some of Kant's work,
Hmm.
and I'm actually looking for it now
No, that's
since
fine.
I mean to
That's
tell you
very
about
helpful.
it.
I would like
But
that actually, please.
but all right,
Well, when you get a chance, yeah.
I'm scrolling. Uh,
Yeah, or you can sure, go ahead. I don't want to.
okay,
And I'll talk
yes.
while you're looking. I can riff to the audience. If you.
Do some impressions. Well,
Yeah, I can sing. What's
can you?
sure. Heaven, I'm in heaven. Wait, what's that song at the beginning of Goodfellas? Must I forever be a beggar? Yeah, okay, so my viewership kind of.
You can sing.
I actually can. That was bad. I was out of my range there.
Um,
I can do impressions, yeah. I can
okay.
anybody, actually.
So, and I hopefully you can just edit this.
Uh, uh, no, no. Well, yes, I will. I will edit it.
Okay.
Well, actually, I'm not sure.
Here's
Maybe I'll edit it.
here's one
Yes.
from Kant's Lectures on Anthropology.
Oh,
The fact that the human being can have the representation I raises him infinitely above all the other beings on earth. By this he is a person, that is, a being altogether different in rank and dignity from things, such as irrational animals, which one may deal and dispose at one's discretion. It's
oh boy.
that sentence, like
Well, that is.
so.
Can I? I'm gonna get to work here. I'm gonna put on my work hat, okay, and
Okay.
analyze this. Okay, so there are a couple of there are two ideas in that sentence, okay, and okay, now one of them is that okay, that we are able to think about ourselves. We are able to think reflectively. Okay, the human beings are able to a human being is a subject that can take itself also as an object. Okay, now that is true. I mean, now maybe that's true of animals too, but it certainly is true of human beings, right? So Kant is saying that, right? A human being can say I, right? He can say, gosh, he can ask questions, a human being can ask questions about himself, right?
Personhood,
Person,
right?
right? Now, here's the thing. So that's one thing he says. Okay, now another thing he says by implication is that animals are not able to think reflectively. Now, we can come back to this, but it's not. It's certainly true of some animals. Now, but then there's a third point. Okay, which so I mean, my view is that he's on pretty solid ground with the first two. Uh, Certainly with the first one, human beings can think about themselves. I mean, that's a fact. Animals are certainly less able to do that. That's a little more questionable, but we can grant it provisionally. Now, the third one is ugly. Okay, and I agree. I don't think it follows from the first two. I mean, it's true that bears or dogs are not you know uh, as developed in every way, but it doesn't mean that you can do whatever the hell you want with them, right? You can't skin them alive just for fun. I mean, that's sick. That's what a serial killer does. I mean, that's obviously wrong. So I mean, I agree that I agree with Kant that we have intellectual and possibly other capacities that animals don't, but that doesn't mean that. But first of all, animals do have something; they're not rocks. And the other thing is that even though animals, may not be great intellectuals, for the most part, I mean, you cannot do whatever the hell you want to do with them. So that's my breakdown of that Kant quote.
Right. I guess that's the objectionable part, saying that we're better and that we can use them as we like. I think there's also some, and I don't know this, but
Hmm.
I think that there's also some uh, religiosity in that. I think that there's some basis I think in Christianity that animals don't have souls, therefore
That's a good point.
they're
No, that's
they're
a
a
good point.
thing. They're a thing, and we can use them. therefore man's use. And it just, if your mission, and I call it your mission, but one of your objectives in
Right.
taking philosophy public to the
Right.
layperson is to get us to think. And this certainly made me think. I mean, I'm an animal lover, but yet I'm not yet a vegetarian, and I feel like a hypocrite. And I really think just this thought um, exercise has brought me to it.
Let
So,
me.
God, I thank
Mhm.
you. I mean,
Oh
I
well.
do
Yeah.
want to argue with. I don't. I don't take to Kant's position, nor do I take to the idea animals don't have souls, therefore we can do what we want. I think it's dangerous if we objectify. Kant did. I know it's your turn to talk.
No. No.
Something else I read.
Please. Please. Yes.
Kant did kind of soften that stance in saying that it's morally wrong to the cruelty to animals. It's morally wrong,
Yeah,
but
he does, and then he makes this weird. He attempts to rationalize it in this very, very obviously artificial way. He says it's wrong, but only it's not wrong per se. It's wrong only because it promotes sadism in humans, which we might use against other humans. Yeah, he says that, which is
right.
really
Oh,
absurd,
it's only
totally
wrong
absurd.
because it affects us badly.
And it's obviously he cannot possibly believe that. That's such an artificial line. I mean, if you see
Oh, yeah.
some guy torturing a puppy, right? I mean, yeah, he's probably also going to do bad things to humans, but that's not the only reason it's bad, nor is it the primary reason. In fact, I mean, yeah, that's weird. That is weird. Yeah. Um,
So,
mhm.
from a philosophical standpoint with animals,
Right.
yes, again, my layperson, just a quick read.
Oh,
It was full
nonsense.
of information, but as a debate coach in one of my lives, we used philosophical values to argue debate positions. And so utilitarianism was a prominent philosophical standpoint.
Which he hated, by the way. Kant was anti-utilitarian.
Yeah, so utilitarianism simplified the greatest good for the greatest number of people,
Hmm. Or no, well, it depends. No, I mean,
or greatest number.
well, greatest that's you put your finger on an interesting point, right? Which is that that's what they used to say, but then contemporary utilitarians say, well, look, I mean, why stop at people? I mean, surely it concerns sentient beings, and that's why Peter Singer, who is really
Yes.
detestable, but yeah, he's a utilitarian. He says, well, look, if you're going to be utilitarian, then you have to be nice to animals, and you have to, um, and so I mean, he is right that if utilitarianism is your starting point, you kind of have to, give dolphins and dogs and other creatures a break. That's true. That is true.
because of the because of Bentham's basic tenet that if it causes pain, or happiness versus pain, pleasure versus pain.
Well, the relevant question is can it feel? And obviously, animals can feel. I mean, if look, what does utilitarianism say? It basically says, look, happiness is the thing that matters. Well, and so therefore, anything that can feel happiness is relevant, right? Or anything that can feel displeasure is relevant, and it's very obvious that animals, at least the more evolved ones, and even the less evolved ones, but certainly the more evolved ones can feel a lot. I mean, one thing they can do is feel, right? And it follows that torturing them is wrong, which in fact it obviously is. But wait, there's one thing that you said that I would like to address,
Okay.
right? Which is okay. So Kant says, okay, he says, okay, we're rational. Okay, fine. Um, and therefore we're better than animals. Okay, fine. Therefore we can do whatever we want with them. And it seems to me that uh, you kind of lumped these two things. Like I can believe that I'm better than some other person, and I can even be right, but that doesn't mean that I can do whatever I want with him, right? You see, those are two different points. Like, let's suppose we are better than animals. Does that mean that we can do whatever we want with them? No. I mean, like, there are a lot of people you're better than. There may be some people who are better than you, whatever that means. But that it doesn't follow that they can do whatever they want with you, nor does it follow that you can do whatever you want with people who you're better than, right? See, these are different points, right?
Right, and you didn't say that
No, no, no. I'm not worried about blame. I'm not.
yeah,
It's not. I'm just saying, like Kant said it, right? I mean, in the quote.
yeah.
He says, we're better than animals. Sure, okay, fine, whatever that means, maybe, in some ways, right? Therefore, we can do whatever. Therefore, they exist merely to serve us. Now, that does not follow, right? I mean, that does not follow. And that does show, I think, a kind of. I mean, Kant's thinking, as you probably sort of detected in my from my book, right, is characterized by these sort of extreme views. Like he will make some sort of okay points, and then he'll draw these very extreme conclusions from them.
Mm.
But let's okay. I'm kind of lecturing too much, but actually, one thing you did say, which was I thought really struck a chord, which is so in pre kind of Judeo-Christian religions, right? Um, you still there, Norma?
Yes.
Okay. So if you've ever read Totem and Taboo by Freud, which is my favorite book, but in most religions, right? I mean, Christianity and Judaism, which is a little older, obviously, but these are fairly modern religions, right? Religion has been around 100,000 years, or however long we've been around, and these religions are a few thousand years old. And the thing is that in historically, most people actually did not really see themselves as all that different from animals. People used to worship totems. They used to worship animals. Like the head of their tribe, the spiritual head of their tribe would be an animal. It would be, this was the clan of the bear or of the wolf or the penguin or whatever, right? And little kids don't see themselves as better than animals. So people, cavemen or whatever, savages and children see animals as being cut from the same cloth as ourselves, and they attribute to animals all of the qualities that we attribute to human beings, and then um, then the monotheistic faiths came along pretty recently, right? And when that happened, there was a big change, and that's a point that you alluded to, and I hadn't thought of it. And Kant was a pietist. He did have, I don't know exactly what his views were, but he did have sort of a kind of extreme religious views of a kind.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And yeah, it is. And I mean, one respect in which philosophers, kind of rationalistic philosophers, one respect in which they've really failed is in their treatment of animals, right? Because they've kind of constructed these conceptions of what rationality is. They've tried to answer the question, what is it to be rational? And then they've produced an answer that sort of seems okay, but then if their answer is correct, it sort of follows that animals are robots, and they have a choice. They can either say, oh, okay, well, animals don't have souls, they're robots, or my answer is wrong. And so they usually kind of, you know, yeah, take the other view. And I agree, they're wrong. Now, I'm interested in what your views on animal. Not, I mean, there are different kinds of animals, right? But like what?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Okay. This is my first interview, people. So everybody, be patient with me. Now,
Well, yeah,
Norma
I
Jean,
wanted I
go ahead.
wanted
Please
to
speak.
speak
Yes.
about this, and that's
Yes.
what we're doing.
Now,
Um,
hmm you had a
well,
certain animal in mind, right? Your dog.
right. That's when I first wrote you, I think, because you said animals don't deliberate, and I said you don't know my dog who has passed,
Yeah.
Hercules. But
Oh, that's cute. Oh,
no, I think all of us could that own pets can see them deliberate and act on thought. I just see it. And I remember I sent you a video of two tortoises. One tortoise had turned over on its back and was struggling, and the other tortoise lumbers
that's
up,
interesting.
stops, and thinks about it. And maybe I'm
Being
and
anthropomorphizing.
yeah, thank you,
Yeah.
anthropomorphizing this
Right.
tortoise. But he kind of sat there, and what do I do? And I could see him deliberate. Well, I'll go around to the back of the other tortoise, and I'll put my shell under him and push until I turn him over. And that's what he did. I don't know. I see deliberation in that. I saw deliberation in my dog, who was trained or conditioned to not get on the couch. But yet, when he didn't know I was observing him, I
hmm
could see him look around to see if anybody was looking and jump on the couch. I thought that was deliberation,
Yeah.
you
Okay.
know.
Oh, whoops, we're getting it. Oh, nuts.
Okay.
No, I'm interested. We're just getting a little bit of an echo here. Okay, here's first of all, I'm not here to disagree with you, and nor do I really disagree with you. I mean, I think what I'm starting to see as a result of this very exchange is that um, okay, there are differences between human beings and animals. The thing is that if you attempt to state those differences in these very categorical terms, like human beings are rational, animals are not, you're probably going to mischaracterize the difference. Or human beings can deliberate, but animals cannot. If you say that, you're probably going to end up with a position that is half true at best. That's sort of what I'm. I mean,
Um,
I'm not opposed to this. I mean, look, I think it's. I guess maybe the relevant question is how are we different from animals, and that's the question. I mean, and we'd have to start with a certain kind of animal, but are there differences between us and them, and what would those differences be? I guess that's the relevant question. So let's set aside, Kant's views for the moment. Um, what is your feeling about that?
well, yes, we're different than animals, and as you said, each animal species is different, I
Right.
guess. So, and it's only what we can observe, right? And you wrote
Okay.
about or up, but I don't think we can really know. But they have feelings.
They do have feelings. That's true. They do have
Right.
feelings.
We have feelings. And like you said, categorizing, the argument gets a little too precious about, well, we have a moral obligation because they're rational or they're not rational. I don't think that makes sense. I think it just comes down to what's right. We can, and that's why I brought up utilitarianism. We can see they suffer pain, so why would we inflict it and not feel morally obligated not to inflict it?
I agree
Uh,
with that. That's true. I mean, I think we can agree on that. I mean, like somebody, look, the dog definitely rises above the cognitive threshold that it has to rise above to deserve decent treatment, right? I mean, I think the question I'm asking is, look, your dog Hercules, okay, was a lovable creature, all right, and it had some, and it look. Here's a way to think about it. Like, let me ask you a question: was Hercules smarter than a mouse?
I don't know. Because I don't know,
About mice?
I assume yes,
Okay.
but I really don't know what a mouse does and thinks, and I haven't observed much mouse behavior.
All right, but what about a potato bug? I mean, Hercules definitely, I mean, outclasses a potato bug in terms of
Again,
intellectual.
again, see, I don't know. I don't see how we can just assume. I
Well,
guess observation, and helps, but I would
okay.
say yes, but essentially, I don't know.
Hmm.
It's a difficult thing to think about.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
I'd say yes.
Right. I mean,
That's
you're,
yes.
uh, I mean, you're right. I mean, you have to obviously be cautious about, until you sort of walk a mile in their moccasins, you don't really, really, really know. But come on. I mean, you can make judgments about a person's intellect, right? I mean,
Yes, yes, yes.
some people, yeah, sometimes brilliant people pretend to be retarded, and sometimes, people who are kind of dumb can briefly impersonate an intelligent person, but briefly. But I mean, that only goes so far. I mean, and I mean, you can certainly see from there's a lot you can infer from a creature's behavior as to its intellect, as to the proportions and configuration thereof. I mean, so look, I
Yeah.
mean, so and the other thing is that if you couldn't, I mean, like let's suppose that if you're obviously in your heart of hearts you're not that skeptical, because if you really were that agnostic about you know the intellects of animals, you wouldn't resist, that then you wouldn't resist Kant's position so much, right? Like you obviously do believe that, that you clearly do believe that Hercules had feelings and,
Yes.
and thoughts and things like that. So you're not a total skeptic, right? I mean, if you were a total skeptic,
Right.
your position would be, well, I don't know, for all I know, the Rock might, you know. So I think that's a bit of a sort of more of a diplomatic position. Uh,
Yeah. Yes, you're right. You
you know,
nailed me.
I did.
I acquiesce. You're
Yeah,
right.
you did. And this is not college. I mean, in college, colleges are not free speech zones. That's why I left universities, because you can't say shit, because then people, are all over you. Um, and you tend to get those sorts of things, like, but yeah, I don't know, like, it's it seems to me that human beings do have the ability to reflect, and and I'm not seeing that so much in let's focus on dogs, okay? Just because otherwise we don't want to sprawl here, right? We don't want to talk about insects or snakes, but it does seem to me that there is some significant respect. I mean, so this one philosopher named Wittgenstein, I don't really like his work, but he did make one very good point. Okay, he said the dog can expect its master to come through the door right now, but can he expect his master to come tomorrow? Right? So human beings can think about tomorrow. We can think about 10 years from now. We can think about 100 years from now. But it seems to me that animals seem to live in a kind of perpetual present, in the sort of, they can expect things to happen to be imminent. They can respond to what just happened. But when it comes to thinking about things that can only be grasped through a kind of feat of abstraction, they seem to fall short. That's, you know,
Yes.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, their capacities and intelligence are different,
Right.
or I don't want to say sub. They're not quite as evolved, I guess, as ours. But well, then too, I've seen videos of home videos of a dog at
Mm-hmm.
home while its parents are away.
Right.
And right at maybe that's the now, but they must anticipate it. Right at 5 o'clock, the animal gets up and waits by the door. Right. So is that like conditioning, knowing that the parents are coming at 5? And how does he even know it's 5? And well,
Right.
I guess
Right. That's
it's
right.
an animal. All of
Mm-hmm.
this kind of so I
No.
guess all of philosophy is great for spurring one to think, and
Mm-hmm.
the various frameworks, I think, are what is confining. And I guess after reading through and coming through all of it, about a moral obligation, yes or no, it just kind of boils down to your human natural instinct about what's right and wrong. And I guess it's your job as an analytic philosopher to frame it, but
Well.
and
Mm-hmm.
it's wrong to cause animals pain. And I think maybe I've always felt
Mm-hmm.
it's very controversial, but I wish I didn't eat them, and I eat
That's a more significant,
yeah.
because the sort of the sort of sweeping points about philosophy are not. I mean, there's no such thing as philosophy, right? I mean, there's, and if a philosophical view is wrong, it's wrong. I mean, then you revise it. But um, yeah, that's a more significant point, because what I was going to ask is, okay, I understand. I mean, it seems to me that there's something. It's not exactly Kant's position that you disagree with. It's, you feel that there's some kind of live nerve that was struck, and it doesn't seem to me that it's your. It isn't simply that you disagree with Kant about some theoretical point. There's some nerve that was struck. There's something personal to you about
Yeah.
this, which is good, which is
Yeah.
more interesting than these abstract philosophical discussions. And you've mentioned this, the eating of animals. Um, so what happened? So you tell me about this. You wish you had the strength to
Uh,
be a vegetarian, or what's the issue here?
yeah. I'm I I felt kind of my whole life a hypocrite. Well, not my whole life, but when I could start thinking about it, that I haven't become complete vegan or vegetarian. Um, and I guess it is a personal thing. I remember once in a college class in a lecture thing,
Uh
and
huh.
the animal rights people came and they started the film, and I had to leave. So even just once I considered this dogs do have decisions, and then it's kind of moved into animal rights and moral obligations, it makes me so sad. I've really been depressed over it. And I can't, you're right. It's really personal and it's something deep. I'm the person that could never watch Bambi as a child, when an animal gets shot. I can't really bear to think about it, so I'm more like an ostrich with my head in the sand over the situation. Just
Let me ask you a question, and this is not, do you, on a, just strictly viscerally, do you like animal rights people? They
uh,
bother me on a personal level. They really bother me. I
um,
don't like being around them.
so viscerally, I've got to say no.
Yeah, me neither, right? So that's a sort
Me,
of starting point.
that gross video into our class was deeply disturbing, but maybe they've got to tell me, hey, face the facts, this is it. So see, even talking about it, I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Well, then we
I
won't talk
just
about. We will not talk about it. All right. We will
Okay,
not talk
I
about it.
don't want to talk about
We
it.
will not talk about it. We will not
I
talk about
can't.
it. Okay? No, 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 no. It's over. Okay.
Okay.
Now, I would like to ask though. So, for our viewers, so you narrated Flash Boys, Michael Lewis's Flash Boys. Is that right? And
Oh
this,
yeah.
yeah. Tell me about that because I overheard that. I haven't yet listened to the book, and this is a book about Wall Street or malfeasance on Wall Street, and it seems really interesting. Um,
It is, and those books, I've done a few of those. I just finished another one. It's
oh
not up.
wow. Uh,
But they're summaries. It's kind of like I want to liken it to the Cliff Notes uh, of longer books. So they're
hmm
summaries. I didn't write the summaries of a longer book, I guess, designed for people who like to knock them out, listen to one on their commute one way and
Right.
another home. So they're like 30 minutes long.
That's right.
And Flash Boys was an interesting uh, book. Yes, on the take of Wall Street, a little bit dated now, I'd say, but with the advent of high frequency trading on Wall
hmm
Street, I like to trade,
Oh
so
really?
it interested me.
Oh
Yes,
wow.
I'm not very successful. I'm better with investment than
Mm.
trades, but I like to trade. I've got that instinct. I don't know. So it interested me. I wanted to do it, and um, it, the summary. I just told you what the summaries
Well,
are.
no,
I've
no.
done a few of those.
What is Flash Boys specifically about?
It is about the advent of high frequency trading on Wall Street and how, certain individuals discovered what, the power players were doing. And because they laid fiber optic cable, they could receive
Oh wow.
orders and send orders to sell or buy milliseconds and seconds faster than the rest of
Oh wow.
the world, and so they had advantages there built in, which with big money could equate to gazillion dollars. Um,
Right.
and so it's
hmm
the story of a group of players that realized this and acted to intercept it and built their own kind of stock exchange, so that everybody to level the playing field.
That's yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and read the publisher's summary or the first paragraph. It's very interesting. So. In the game-changing bestseller, a small group of Wall Street iconoclasts realize that the U.S. stock market has been rigged for the benefit of insiders. They band together, some of them walking away from seven-figure salaries, to investigate, expose, and reform the insidious new ways that Wall Street generates profits. And if you have a retirement account, etc., this is happening to you. So what's interesting to me is that I tried, as a professor, and as a professor you don't really have to do squat, and you get a big fat check every 2 weeks. And then I left the academy and tried to make money. And one of the things I tried to do was make money on YouTube, and just nothing happened. And then it turns out I learned later that I mean, so on YouTube, you're kind of under the impression that everybody's just kind of you have all these individuals who are just sort of putting up their videos, and some happen to get a lot of viewers and others don't. And that's really not how it works. I mean, any YouTuber who has more than 50 viewers or something is really part of some marketing campaign that is backed by hundreds of millions of dollars.
Hmm.
And yeah, and just everything is yeah, and I
It's not a level playing
no,
field.
no, it is not. And I don't know that there's any way to make it level. I mean, I think you just have to kind of maybe join them, like try to, if you can't beat them, join them, and that's the end of it. But it is not a level playing field, and that and so as Norma Jean, if you try to kind of do things as an individual, like if you try and market on your own, right, it's very hard. That's why I'm going to business school, so I can really learn about marketing and really become a part of the system. But this whole idea that you can just kind of do it on your own, I mean, maybe that worked 100 years ago, but it seems to me that now you need to kind of be a part of, to quote Gordon Gekko, if you're not on the inside, you're on the outside, and that's, I don't know. What kind of books would you like to? What kind of books would you like to see me write that I'm not writing? Like, I mean, as you know, I'm a prolific author, and what kinds of yeah.
When did sleep? I can't believe your catalog. Um, what is it? Over 500, 1,000?
I don't know about that, but no, I work quickly. I sleep plenty.
I wish I did. What kind of books would I like to see you write? I like the, I evidently I have recorded some of your older works that are more academic in nature.
Yes.
And evidently you're going to, I don't want to say bring it down, but you're going to, why don't you state your goal just to, I can include, make philosophy accessible?
Well, yeah, I don't know if that's one way of putting it. I mean, I think first of all, I disagree with this. I disagree with this whole idea of dumbing things down. I mean, I think your product is no. I understand. That's what other self-described philosophers do, and the results are just wretched. I mean, I think it's okay. So there's kind of academic philosophy or there's analytic philosophy, and that's fine for what it is, right? Now, and the truth of the matter is, most people are not interested. Very few people are interested in it. Now, in light of that fact, you have two choices if you're an analytic philosopher. On the one hand, you can try and make it interesting, which is what Simon Blackburn has done. You can write books that are the same sort of they're the very same sort of thing you do when you're teaching grad classes, except that for some reason they're written in a popular style or something. You can do that, or what you can do is you can say, look, this material is simply not of general interest, and what you can do is you can produce a product that uses the sort of instruments that analytic philosophers use, but uses it in connection with content that is of general interest, and that's what I'm going to do, right? Because the people who try to popularize it, they produce these, I'm going to use an ugly word, but these abortions, these intellectual monstrosities that are just bad. I mean, it's sort of like analytic philosophy is it's just sort of logic. It's an intellectual instrument. I mean, and the point of this instrument is to kind of look. I mean, like there are sort of engineers, or there are people who design farming equipment, but most people are interested in what the farm produces, right? And you can try and make farming equipment interesting, but at the end of the day, I think corn is a little more interesting, or you have to kind of be flexible here, and what I'm doing is I'm trying to kind of with success, but I'm using these intellectual instruments, which only go so far in and of themselves, to kind of deal with more general issues, and yeah, so that's sort of what I'm doing, or was doing.
I think I understand.
Yeah, I'm being a little vague, but
but I like popularized. I like academic ideals being popularized, but you object because they get they grind them up and spit them out in the wrong way.
No, I think you can write things that are, well, no, not necessarily. I think when I've read quote unquote popularizations that were good, it isn't simply that some idea was being popularized. It was that it was being sort of changed. Like it was. I think what you want is so there are kind of two views as to the word popularize has two meanings. On the one hand, you can take some idea and then just kind of water it down and put a little sugar on it, but otherwise it's the same idea, and so you make it popular, right? So you omit some of the equations, and you omit some detail. You just basically give, and you make it a little easier to understand. That's one way to popularize. The other way to popularize is to take the idea and or take some aspects of the idea, and then take some other ideas that are more familiar to the public, and you kind of combine the two. So the result is not a watered down version of the old idea. It's a new idea that combines elements of the old idea with elements of things that are of general interest. So it is kind of its own thing. It's not just an inferior version of the old idea. It's It's you're taking the old idea and then breathing new life into it by integrating it with things that people will know about, and that's what I'm doing.
I was going,
Yeah.
okay, good. I
Well,
like
so
that. I like that. Right, that. I know, I guess when I said popularized,
yeah,
my my area of study was communication discipline, and I
right,
know that it's like back in the 70s, I guess it was. But Marshall McLuhan, as a
yeah,
communication scholar, popularized communication studies all of a sudden with his the the medium
is
is
the
the message, and even Woody Allen movie featured him.
I'm gonna hit him
And
at a gut level. What was it, Annie Hall or something? It wasn't Annie Hall.
yeah, it was Annie
Oh, it
Hall,
was okay.
right? But I like that idea because it brought the subject matter to public attention, I guess.
Can I ask you a question? Because I was actually thinking about that book the other day, and I have not read it. Okay, and it's something I do have to read. But what does he mean by that? What?
Oh, I
Yeah,
knew you were going to ask me
yeah.
that. Um, and I'm going to actually, not that I'm skirting the issue, but I have to.
Oh
Dave, you
no.
know that I
Yes,
have
you have obligations. Okay, we cannot talk
yes, and
forever.
it's going. She's going to be here in 5 minutes, so
Okay, all right.
we're at the appointment,
Well,
and we can do another podcast
we
about
will.
communication. And Marshall McLuhan, the medium is the message.
The medium is the
Um,
message. All
yes,
right,
and
so I'm gonna go ahead and stop recording, and
like
then can you and I talk for 10 seconds after I stop recording?
yes,
All
on
right,
this medium.
excellent. All right, thank you, viewers, and there will be more. Okay, excellent. Bye.
Okay,
You
bye.
stay on the, you stay on the line. No, Norma
I
Jean.
know.
Okay,
I'm
okay,
here.
okay. All right, so.